let's move on to another guy who just got paid, baby. Let's go on to topic number 10, Marcus Smart, the Marcus Smart extension. I believe 4 years, $77 million extension for Marcus Smart with the Boston Celtics. What do you got on it, Pat?
Yeah, this is very interesting. And we just mentioned Duncan Robinson, who's just signed an extension. He's going to be making about 18 a year. Smart's going to be making a little over 19 a year. So you can almost look at it and say, would you rather have Duncan Robinson or would you rather have Marcus Smart? Now, Smart, I think I'd probably rather have just because of his defensive skills and his intangibles and leadership. Some question whether that leadership is a little too much, especially for the younger guys. But, I think I'd rather have Smart. Duncan Robinson has a specific skill that he can do. So depending on which team you're on, that's exactly what you're going to try to go after. You might need, if you need shooting, that's the guy you go after. So, but Marcus Smart, they extended him. But the thing that I'm a little concerned about, if I'm a Celtics fan, is Brad Stevens, now the president of basketball operations, made a ton of moves this offseason to clear cap space, right? We all keep thinking that cap space is going to be for next season. They took on a bunch of expiring contracts, the Josh Richardsons, the Chris Dunns. There's got a few other guys that are on expiring deals, and then they're going to have cap space next year to sign somebody. People think maybe Bradley Beal. I don't know if they're going to have enough space for Beal. Yeah, maybe Dame Dollar. That could be interesting too. But they're going to try to go after somebody next year.
Yeah.
When you extend Marcus Smart, are you losing financial flexibility? Well, after that deal was done, then the Celtics announced, I believe the very next day, that losing Evan Fournier was actually a sign and trade. So when they they actually traded Fournier to the Knicks and got a $17 million traded player exception with that deal with Fournier, with that sign and trade. So actually the Celtics gained a $17 million trade exception. And now that they have the expiring contracts, now I think the estimation right now is they will have about $25 million next year in cap space. That's not including what another player that they could trade in a deal, in a sign and trade or something to that effect. So, they have a different kind of financial flexibility. I was reading some stuff that said this is actually better that they signed Smart because they can maybe trade Smart to somebody else and he's more valuable as somebody who has a longer contract because he's still in his 20s. He's still a guy that might want to go, a playoff team might want, or a team that's looking to kind of add a really veteran role player. So it'll be interesting. The Celtics didn't leave themselves without options, I think, is the whole thing that you can take away from this. They extended a player that they like, and they didn't leave themselves with no options next year when it comes to free agency or trades or financial flexibility. So, having that Fournier transaction with the trade player exception, come back the day after the Smart extension, I think makes things a lot better with this contract.
Yeah, no, it definitely helped. I think that definitely helped with the news of everything, to be honest, when I seen that news about the Fournier trade exception. And let's just cover that quickly. I mean, when we got him throughout this past season, we absorbed part of our trade exception that we had. So we lost that. So to be able to gain it back now, I think is more valuable than at any point having any Evan Fournier even on our roster. So I think it's much more valuable having that trade exception back than having him. And then quickly, you talked about, Duncan Robinson making 90 mil and now, Marcus Smart making 77 million. Man, is it good to be a professional athlete nowadays. You don't even have to be a superstar to get a mega contract. Neither one of these guys are superstars, yet they're getting big time money. And in my opinion, like I said, I wouldn't be giving Duncan Robinson $90 million. And then the only thing about Marcus Smart is there's more value there for your money. And I think you brought that up as well. Not only can he lead your offense and play point guard, he can play two. He can also play the three in a small lineup as well. And then he plays great defense, probably one of the best defenders we have on our team currently. And then he can still shoot the three, to be honest. He might be streaky from 3-point, but he can still shoot the three. Where Duncan Robinson, the only thing he has in his game is shooting the ball. So if I'm paying anybody that money, it's going to be Marcus Smart because I'm getting more value for my dollar. So I think this is a good point. And you brought up a spicy point for me to honestly being like it might make him some trade bait down the line. And honestly, that makes more sense to me as well. You know, you sign them, you lock them in, we have them on this team and see if we can mold them into our roster to make the championship run. But if not, it gives us some options where we might be able to lure them out there on the end of that trade bait line. And with, like you said, a young guy in his 20s with still multiple years left on the deal. So I think when you're a team and you're looking to get a trade and you're looking to maybe get something in return, you're not normally looking to get a guy that's in a contract year because A, you might lose that guy in free agency, or B, you're going to have to negotiate with him immediately on an extension. So I think most teams, when they're looking to trade and get something in return, they like seeing that, hey, this guy's got 2 years left on his deal or maybe even 3 years left on his deal. So I think you bring up a great point there where there's still a lot of options there where you're not exactly locked in. And we've talked about this many a times in professional sports. You could sign a 10-year deal and they could trade you the next day. So unless you have that no trade clause in there, like an Aaron Rodgers or like a Deshaun Watson, then you could be traded almost instantly no matter what contract you sign. So I think the Boston Celtics still have a lot of leverage and flexibility, even with signing this 4-year deal with Marcus Smart. But quickly, I know a guy that was happy for him was Jason Tatum. And obviously, Jason Tatum is probably our #1 star right now on this team, along with Jaylen Brown. So keeping those two happy and having guys that they want alongside them on the roster, I think is a great move by the Boston Celtics front office. And I think clearly Jason Tatum liked playing with Marcus Smart. So having him re-sign for 4 years, Jason Tatum was congratulating him. So I'm excited to see what this team can do with the addition of, like you said, Josh Richardson, having Al Horford back, and then still having plenty of options left in the offseason next year. I think this is going to be a couple of exciting years to be a Boston Celtics fan.
Yeah, this team's going to be fun to watch. Even though their young guys just lost in the Summer League Championship the other night, they got smoked pretty good, actually. They were playing great throughout the entire Summer League season. So, and guys like Romeo Langford were playing really well. I think he hurt his wrist again, which is not great, but hopefully that heals properly. He's got some time now. Aaron Nesmith was playing well, and Peyton Pritchard was playing out of this world. So you've got some young guys there. The other thing with the Celtics, too, is in 2022, the only guys they have under contract, fully under contract for 2022 are Tatum, Brown, Al Horford, and now Marcus Smart. Some of these other guys are going to be, some of those guys you mentioned are going to be free agents, and guys like Langford, Grant Williams, Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, and Carson Edwards all have team options for the 2022 season. So if the Celtics want to, they can let them walk. So they have financial flexibility in certain areas, and then with that traded player exception, they have some things to work with. So the Celtics can still make a big move next offseason, whether it's a sign and trade. It'll probably be a sign and trade rather than just a straight up signing. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be very, very interesting next 2 seasons for the Celtics. And one more thing with Marcus Smart. I think the guy who really likes him, too, that is happy that he re-signed with the Celtics is brand new head coach Ime Udoka. He's a defensive guy. He really likes that grit and grind, hard-nosed kind of player. I think he really likes Marcus Smart, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons they extended him as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun to be a C's fan at the end of this season. Folks, if you like this show, you're watching it right now on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. That's Comeback Sports on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, Comeback Sports, and then all the cut-ups that our awesome producer, Ben Kudo, puts together after the show, that'll all filter to your YouTube channel. You don't have to go search for it. It's just right there in your subscriptions.